I know building in Minecraft can be very difficult, especially when you're first starting out. So I've gathered 25 tips and tricks that I wish I knew when I first started building in Minecraft. So let's go. Don't leave any dirt under your houses. I found that it makes it look like it's just laying on top and that the foundation doesn't go any further down. So extending the walls is an easy fix, or you can just cover it with dirt. Similarly, replace the blocks that are next to path blocks or farmland. It makes the foundation look sturdier and it's just a cleaner look. Try to use blocks that you usually wouldn't build out of. I found that it's a really easy way to make your builds look a little bit more interesting. Using hay bales for thatched roofs is one of my favorite things to do, or even composters for walls. It makes it look like you have wood paneling along your build. Add pillars using fences for support on your builds. It can look really weird when you just have something floating around. A simple fence will fix that right away. Bonus points if you place a wall on the bottom for that extra sturdiness, and that also goes for windows and entrances. I like using fences mostly, but for small windows like these, I like to use open fence gates. When planning out your builds, I found that having everything be odd numbered makes it a lot easier to make the roof in the future. I usually build on a smaller scale, so I stick to 3, 5, 7, 9. Since a lot of styles of roofs do require a one block center, I just found myself always using odd numbers when building, and it saves me the hassle of having to redo it later. I swear, if you can take anything from this video, trapdoors are your best friend. They are so useful. There's not a single build where I don't include a trapdoor. Here's a few examples where I probably missed so many. I use them to texture floors, to create planters, to hide the tops of pillars, add them at the bottom of a pillar, it makes it look sturdier, window shutters, ceilings, entrances, shelves, details on the roof, custom barrels for decoration. I love using them for pergolas, anywhere in a window frame to create a smoother arch. And sadly, this one's Java exclusive, but you can also place them under ladders. Try working with the terrain. I found that it makes the build look a lot more integrated into your world instead of just having it be like on a flat area. They make super flat worlds for a reason, guys. A really easy way to plan out your build is to first create a simple box and then just add tiny boxes next to the main one. So instead of breaking my head, I found this a lot easier to do. And doing it this way kinda also helps with the roof. The first box that I make, I tend to make it the biggest, and all the additional ones are just secondary. So when it comes to making the roof, I know that the big one is going to be the main roof structure, and any other roof piece that goes on the secondary boxes will just blend into the main one. Also forgot to mention that doing it this way makes it easier to plan out the pillars as well. I tend to place them on the outer corners first, and then place them on the corners where the boxes intersect. Waterlog some stairs to hydrate crops around. I usually do this on an interior. Slabs work the same way and it still hydrates everything. I usually use trapdoors the most. Copper grates are great. Oh my god, the grates are great. Anyways, they're good because they don't spill water out of the sides. Leaves work the exact same way. And if you waterlog mangrove roots, you can actually plant coral on top and they will never dry out. And all of these, I just like to use them for decoration. Carpets are a great way to fill up empty space in a room, with the added bonus that you can hide light source blocks underneath. I love doing that to make the insides of my builds a lot brighter, and this is mostly personal preference, but I love to coordinate the color of the carpet with the main color of the build. I know that every single Minecraft YouTuber under the sun has told you to add texture to your builds, but I like to add to only stick to 2 to 3 blocks to texture something. Not gonna lie, sometimes I don't even texture some parts if I already texture something else in the build. I'm not kidding, I actually used to texture pathways like this. So no, this is not more. More is more. And this applies for everything, by the way. So for floors, walls, roofs, and if I do think that it needs something else, I just add some decorations on top, and that really just completes the entire look. And sticking to the texturing, make sure that you choose blocks that are very similar in shade. I know this seems very obvious in hindsight, but I actually used to do this, and when I finished the entire build and it looked off, I didn't know why, since in my head I was just texturing and that was what you were supposed to do. But yeah, just tame it down a little. Just make sure that the blocks that you use are very similar in color to one another, and that will save you so much trouble when it comes to texturing. Such a simple thing to do is just to bring back your doors a little bit in that same block. It just creates a little bit more depth, and also placing an upside down stair on top can also help to add a little bit more depth. And I know it seems really simple, but I actually didn't used to do this. A lot of times I offset the wall from the pillars to add a little bit more depth, but there's just a lot of times where I can't be bothered. So I found that as a substitute, I can add window frames and planters to the outside to create that depth. Or to be honest, just like adding anything on top really helps. It's not really exclusive to like window frames or anything. But yeah, if you're ever struggling with a flat wall, add window frames. I like adding leaves going down and just any other random decoration that you can think of. Don't forget to landscape your build. I feel like a build is never finished until I landscape the entire thing. You can keep it pretty simple like I do. I like adding bushes around with some leaves. If it's next to a body of water, I like to add sugarcane or drip leaves. I know you have to tear down trees to actually build, but once I'm done, I always like to add them back. Using bone meal to add plants and flowers can really help. I love placing leaf litter under trees, just so it feels like it's been there quite a while. And I also like placing little patches of dirt and moss, just to break up the uniformity from the grass. Make everything 5 blocks tall, especially if you're building a smaller house. I found that 5 blocks tall is like a sweet spot to be able to place a window in the center and also have enough space for a nice door. There's other build sets that do require like a higher build height, but in general I tend to stick to 5 blocks tall. And you probably noticed if you followed some of my tutorials, you can pretty much guess that everything is gonna be 5 blocks tall. Roofs don't have to be such a pain, I promise. I'm using that same layout that I used earlier in the video just to really drive that point home. You can see I'm grabbing that main box that I made first, orienting the roof lengthwise, and you can see I'm completely ignoring the fact that there's other parts of the roof. I'm just focused on making that main one. I also go ahead and fill it in like normal. I basically just follow that same pattern that I already did for the framing, and to actually make the other parts of the roof connect, I make the roof frame first and I just go for it. I basically just fill it in, again completely ignoring the fact that there's another piece of roof there, and you can kind of tell it just connects effortlessly. There's just some stairs in the way that you have to get rid of just so everything actually connects to each other, but overall I feel like it's very intuitive to do it this way, and it definitely makes it so much easier to make roofs that are seemingly complicated. I know I mentioned before to make your layout always have an odd number, but you know, sometimes you're just dumb and forget how to count. Like what happened to me at that moment when I realized there was a 2 block center. A really easy fix that I do all the time is just to make like a half roof triangle only using slabs and have it go sideways, and that completely gets rid of the problem. It's such an easy fix in case you don't want to redo everything. And now to finally wrap it up on the roofs, whenever I have a space like this that's really big and empty, I like to add dormers to the roofs. So essentially I just make that same process just like a little bit tinier. For dormers, I usually do make the pillars a little bit shorter. It really depends on the size of the house. This one was more medium size, so I went 4 blocks tall, but I have made builds where the dormer pillars are like 2 blocks tall, just because you don't want the roof of the dormer to be taller than the actual roof. So the roofs, I tend to make them a lot stubbier, and again, just make the walls a little bit shorter. You can use string to prevent plants from growing. It's really nice to use on bamboo, just because bamboo tends to grow so tall. This also goes for sugarcane. Sometimes I just want the sugarcane to be a little bit shorter, and saplings as well, so you can have them stay as a sapling forever. String also prevents the spread of vines, so you can freely use vines to decorate without worrying of the vines spreading everywhere. Also, added benefit, you can use string to prevent moth spawning, so you can have it be dark but also safe. On a similar note, you can use shears to stop glowberries from growing any longer, and I do this because sometimes the string gets in the way and it bothers me that I can see the hitbox a little. And this also works for both nether vines. Use saplings to make custom trees. My favorite trees to do this with are cherry, oak, and spruce. I think it just tends to work better with those trees, and what I usually do is make the trunk look a little bit better using some stairs and trapdoors, also to add the roots at the bottom of the trunk. And then I just focus on placing some leaves to fix the shape of it a little. You can't really tell, but I do place fences to create branches, but I kind of center those underneath the tree. But yeah, this is such a neat trick in case you don't know how to make custom trees, because it can be a real struggle. Small details for small builds. I feel like this is very I feel like this would be very obvious now, just to have everything be proportionate to each other. But I swear, I look at some of my first builds and I used to make the biggest chimneys for like the smallest house. You can just tell it just doesn't look right. It's just not made for that little tiny house. But place that chimney on the bigger build and it will look good because it's proportionate to each other. Place light source blocks behind trapdoors. I like to use them when I have a big room like this and I don't want to spam lanterns or torches. And that also goes for ceilings. If you have the space to place a block between the ceiling and the roof, it's so nice to have everything bright, especially if you have a nice ceiling design. You want it to be visible. So I find myself hiding light source blocks behind trapdoors all the time. And finally, use stairs on the floor or walls to make it look like it's a little bit more worn out, especially if you have water nearby. You can waterlock the stairs on the floor and it looks like there's water going through the cracks. I really like that effect. So if you're going for something that's overgrown, abandoned, I found this little trick to be really useful. And that's pretty much all the tips that I have for you. Hopefully you have found some of these useful. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next video.